Hey everybody, welcome back. I am Jason Salyer, and today's topic for discussion is water. Water is essential for life. You can't go very long at all without a good, clean source of water. Um, and there's lots of different ways that we can go about acquiring that. If we're talking about a wilderness situation, if we're talking about on the homestead, whatever it may be. Like for example, if power goes out at my house, I have a well, a private well. Power goes out, in my current state, I have no way to get water into my house, and that's a problem. I've got a hand pump coming. It's on the way, just hasn't arrived yet, and once it's there, I'll have that next step taken care of. But if you don't have that set up, if you don't have your own personal well that you can have access to clean water, if you're reliant upon, so let's say, city water, and that gets shut off one day, or if I'm stuck out in the wilderness somewhere and I just need to find myself a drink of water, there's so many different techniques and methods of purifying it, filtering it, boiling it, all those types of things, and that's the stuff I want to talk about today. Like for example, this is the creek that runs through my property. It's a pretty good sized creek, and I am super blessed and very fortunate to have a water source like this only 50 yards, 60 yards from my house, from my front door. And you could look at this and be like, oh, that's a crystal clear flowing mountain stream. You could probably just lap right out of that, and you might be right. Yeah, I might be able to get down there on my hands and knees and lap some water up like a dog, but there's also a pretty high risk factor in that I could get sick, because I don't know necessarily what's going on upstream. A mile upstream from here, there could be a cow crapping in it right now. I don't know that, and I want to kind of mitigate those risks if possible. And what can I do? Well, what I've done in the past, let's say when the power's gone out, I've gotten buckets of water from here, taken it to the house, and I've poured it into a Berkey water filter. Water filtration is awesome. If you've got a good one, the Berkeys are great for homesteading. Or if you're on foot carrying something as simple as this Grayl water filter is fantastic, because I can walk up to this stream right now, real time, dip this in the water, trying to keep any big particulates out of it, loosen up the cap, push it down, and in about a minute or less, squirting out, in about a minute or less, I'm going to have 24 ounces of fresh, clean drinking water that I can just throw back in my backpack and be on the go again. And that, to me, is about the most convenient thing that you could possibly do. There's lots of other good filters out there. Alan, you could chime in here. I know you liked it. Was it Be-Free?
That's what I'm currently using.
Yeah.
Katadyn Be-Free. Yeah.
Katadyn Be-Free, another really good one that we would recommend. But I really like this one because, bam, I'm drinking fresh, clean water that's not going to make me sick. Now, let's say I don't have a water filter. Let's say I'm not carrying one of those. What else can I do? In a homestead situation, I could carry a bucket of water up to the house. I could put a big old pot of water on the stove top and boil it, right? I've got propane to generate, even if the electricity's out, I can have fire. In a wilderness situation, in a more primitive setting, I can carry myself a metal canteen cup, which I highly recommend. There's a few items that I think you need to have in your pack if you're going away from civilization. And a metal container of some sort that you can boil water in is a must-have, in my opinion. I don't think there's any way around it. If you don't have something that you can boil water in heading into a wilderness setting, you're wrong. In a simple canteen cup like this, you can build yourself a small little fire or cook it over a stove, whatever it may be, and get it to go to a rolling boil. And that's the key word right there, is rolling boil. Do you need to boil water to make it safe to drink? No, you just need to heat it up to a certain temperature. Don't quote me, but I want to say it's 160 degrees for a significant period of time, whatever that may be. But how do I know if the water temperature is 160 degrees or not? I don't know, but visually, I can look at it and see that that water's boiling. And I know that it's up to at least 212 degrees, at least at sea level. And I know that by the time that water cools down, it boils. By the time it cools down, ready to drink, it's been at that temperature long enough to kill any nasties that might be in my water. Now, when it comes to boiling water, let's say starting a fire and getting water to a boil is a chore. It's a kind of a big thing. And let's say my only purpose in starting a fire is to boil water. A lot of people, what they do is they get all their materials together, they start their fire, they get it going, and then they put their water on there. I don't do that because it wastes a lot of time and energy. What I like to do is get myself just a dry base to kind of set it on, just maybe a few sticks, flat sticks to put it on there. And then while the water's full right there, my cup of water, I will start my fire around it. And so immediately, as soon as I start the fire, as soon as I start to see flames, it's already warming my water up and I'm not wasting any time or any fuel, any resources to get it done.
As we scoop the water out of the creek, you can look down in here and see there's a lot of sediment. And I often carry more than one metal container and people ask me why. And this is one case where I might use an additional container. So it might look like I take a bandana or something for a pre-filter, you know, some piece of cloth. And I take my clean vessel here and I can just kind of hold that, put a small depression in it. And you see all of the floaties and particulate in there. And I'm just gonna do a pour to filter out the big stuff. And this is a very low-tech way of doing it. You could use the edge of your t-shirt, you know, any piece of equipment that you had to hand. You know, I generally will just drink that stuff, honestly, because once you've boiled it, there's nothing in there that's gonna hurt you. But there are times when you get into the water and it's got that much green scum on the top of it, you know, you do wanna filter some of that stuff out. And you can see on that piece of fabric all of those particles that I just removed from the water. So that looks a lot better, doesn't it? Move this cap, and I keep this thing full of denatured alcohol so that when I do need to use it, it's ready. I'll get many burns out of that. And you can't even really see the flame on it sometimes. I don't know if you can see it on film, but I can see the heat, and that's how I check it to make sure that it is lit. One thing with our mission essential equipment like lighters and knives, I generally don't like to lay those things down. So when they're in my hand being used, I'll put them back down. It's a good policy, especially if you only have one. And we'll just place that on the heat source. Tablets are another good thing to carry. There's a lot of different water purification tablets. I have in this Molly carrier here a side pouch, and inside of that I like to keep my iodine tablets. These are Coleman brand from Walmart. They're, you know, it's irrelevant to me really who made them. The iodine is what's important. There's a second bottle that you get with these that has a chemical that will remove some of the iodine flavor, and it has the yellow cap on it, and you just follow the instructions. So the good thing about these is you don't have a dependence on fire, you don't have any moving parts, and filters can, when they freeze, they can crack, and that 0.1 micron opening just got a lot bigger, and now all that bad stuff can come washing through. So I generally, when I set up a pack, I like to have 3 methods to take care of water. I like to be able to boil the water, I like to be able to chemically treat the water, and I like to be able to filter the water. So I will have, whatever situation I'm in, I will have something that's appropriate to that situation. And ultimately with tablets, they will run out. Whereas a metal container, so long as you can make fire, you can purify water indefinitely.
Now the next thing that I want to talk about is what if you don't have a filter, water filter? What if you don't have a cotton cloth to use as a pre-filter? What if you don't have a metal container? What if you can't even really get a fire started? What if you got nothing? What can we do to make this water safe to drink? And around here, there's a couple different options. Option one, I can find a stream like this and I can follow it until I find a small little tributary that runs into it. And then I can follow that upstream until it gets to nothing. And I find the spot where it's basically coming out of the ground. If I can find that, I almost guarantee 100% that it's gonna be safe to drink. But that takes time, that takes energy, that takes effort, and it requires me to cover a lot of ground. What I can do is dig myself a seep well. A seep well is not a complicated thing. It's basically essentially a hole that I'm digging in the ground and allowing the water to seep into that reservoir that I've created, and using all of the sand and dirt and sediment around to filter that water out. And that's essentially, all I'm doing is creating a spring. I'm creating a spring head basically when I do that. So I'll show you how we do that. I'm gonna look for a spot that's gonna be as easy to dig as possible. The problem with where we live is that there's rocks and roots and everything everywhere. But I'm looking over here on the other side of the creek and I see kind of a flat spot that looks a little bit sandier, and that's gonna be good for the filtration anyway. So I'm gonna head over there and find a good spot to dig the seep well. So when I look for a spot to dig a seep well, I'm gonna dig about a few feet away from the water source that I'm gonna be getting my water from. That way it's just got plenty of dirt, plenty of sediment soil to go through before it gets to me. This spot right here looks pretty good. A couple of things in the way. There's a good chance I'm gonna run into a boulder here, but that's okay. We'll work around it if we have to. But I'm gonna dig down below the level of the water. And at first there might not be any water in there, but if you wait and you're patient, you'll see that water slowly start to seep in, hence the name seep well. But right about here is about a step away from the creek. I'll start digging my hole. So you don't have to use a shovel for something like this. You don't have to use an e-tool. You can use your hands, your little paws. You can use a digging stick, but it would take exponentially longer. I would say to dig a hole of this size with just my bare hands, I mean, you're looking at probably an hour. With a digging stick, you might speed that up a little bit, but not much. But I've been digging for 2 minutes maybe, and I've got a substantial sized hole here that's probably level with the water there with the creek now, but I'm gonna go even a little bit further because I can.
One thing I'm always careful to do with these guys, especially on YouTube, is give absolutes, times, data, because they'll be out there fact checking it.
Yeah, actually,
insulatory is not a word.
kiss my... Actually, Webster does not recognize insulatory. So this is probably deep enough, but I'm gonna go just a little bit more because when I dig in here with either my hands or a cup or whatever container I can fashion, I don't want to disrupt the bottom and then get my water all cloudy. Because what I'm going to do after I get this hole done is I'm going to let it rest. I'm going to let it sit, and I'm going to let it fill up with water. And once it's full of water, I might come in here with either, if I had a cup. If I don't have a cup, I probably wouldn't do that. But if I had a cup, I'd come in here and I would just about empty my seep well out and then let it filter again, because all this stuff that I'm doing digging around here, I might be getting some, I don't know, beaver poop or something pushed down in there from all my rummaging around here. So if I empty it out with my cup and then let it re-filter, I'm mitigating some of that contaminants that might be in there. So after I've got it deep enough, I'm just gonna clean it up around the hole. And you can line this thing with rocks if you wanted to and all that. Probably not gonna do that. get it cleaned out, and then I'll pack the sides. I like to pack the sides because all of this loose dirt around the edge of my hole, if I'm in there digging around and whatnot, if I'm in there getting my water, that loose dirt will fall down in the water and then disrupt it and get it all sedimenty again and get nasty. So I'll clean it out with my hand.
Sedimenty is not a word.
Sedimenty is definitely a word. And I'll pack the sides. Make it tidy and neat. So hopefully nothing falls in. Get the rims packed down tight, just like a well. Doesn't have to be perfect, but you know, just every little step you take to make it better is one less chance of me getting sick from drinking this water. And now you can literally see the water flowing into this hole. So you can see water flowing into our seep well here, and pretty much all around it. And all this sandy clay sediment soil is filtering that water out. And even if there's a dead cow laying in the stream half a mile up, none of that nastiness is going to get to me because of this wall of sediment here that's filtering my water. So we'll just let the hole fill up, and then we'll get ourselves a drink of water. So we've given it about 20 minutes or so. I'm a little bit impatient, so I'm gonna dig in. But I've let most of the sediment kind of settle down to the bottom, and my well has filled up. So if you've got a cup, you can dip this in there very gently, but be careful just not to disturb the bottom and get that sediment all stirred back up again. If you don't have a cup, you just dip your hand in there and do the same thing. But again, it makes kind of a mess of it and makes it a little bit swampy. So just gotta be careful with it.
Another method, if you're around river cane or bamboo or any hollow plant that's non-toxic, is make yourself a straw.
Oh yeah. I wonder if we got anything here. I don't think I've got anything that grows here that we could use. Maybe some of these stems. But first pull off of my well here. You can see how sedimenty that is, a little bit nasty. So what I would typically want to do is take this cup, empty my well, and let it do it again, and it filters through and it'll get a little bit clearer the second go around. But that first go through is going to be a little bit nasty. But still, I could drink this even though it's going to taste like mud. I can rest assured, at least be fairly confident that there's not going to be anything in the water that's going to make me sick. It tastes like, it kind of tastes like clay soil, but it's not terrible. And it will get you through if you've got nothing else. Your choices are either drink the water or die of dehydration. You're gonna drink the water. And that could be said for really any source of water with the exception of probably salt water. So drink the water and hopefully you'll get out of that nasty situation before you succumb to the dehydration. All right, guys, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Make sure you hit that thumbs up.